The king of Aram was at war with Israel. The king planned to set up camp for his army at a certain place. Elijah sent messages to the king of Israel, warning him about the army's location. When the king of Aram found out that his plans had been discovered, he thought one of his own soldiers had told the king of Israel where they were staying.
But the soldiers said, "We didn't tell. It was Elisha, the prophet in Israel. He knows what you say, even when you say it in secret." The king of Aram heard that Elisha was in the city of Dothan. That night, he sent horses, chariots, and a large army to surround the city.
Elisha's servant got up early the next morning and saw the army surrounding them. "What are we going to do?" he asked Elisha. Elisha said, "Don't be afraid. Our army outnumbers their army." The servant was confused. He only saw the Aramean army. Then Elisha prayed, "Lord, open my servant's eyes and let him see."
So God opened the servant's eyes, and he saw horses and chariots of fire, the army of the Lord, covering the mountain. Then Elisha prayed for God to close the eyes of the Aramean army. God did, and they were blind. "You're in the wrong city," Elisha told the army. He led them away to Samaria. Then he prayed for God to open their eyes, and God did. Elisha told the king of Israel to give them food and water. Then the king sent them home. That army did not come into Israel again.
God opened the eyes of Elisha's servant so he could see God's protection. God is always with us. Jesus came to earth as the visible image of our invisible God. God's protection from sin and death is given to everyone who trusts in Jesus.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in again and joining us this week. We are actually finally done with our hermeneutic series, and we are now back in the Gospel Project curriculum. So first, let's quickly review what our big picture question is for this unit. I know it's been a while, but who remembers our question? Right, how many gods are there? Now, who remembers the answer? That's right, there is one true God who alone deserves worship. All of God's amazing displays of power remind us that He alone is God. So let's recap and jumpstart our memories about our Bible story. In this unit, we started our time together with a story from 1 Kings about how God provided for Elijah and the widow during a terrible drought. Then we saw how God sent fire from heaven to prove that He, and not Baal, is the one true God. Then God sent a big rainstorm to end the drought. And lastly, we learned that God took Elijah up in a whirlwind, passing on Elijah's mission to Elisha. And today, we learned that God protected Elisha with an invisible army. God revealed His power and protection in so many ways. Let's see if we can recall all of them. First, God told Elijah to warn the king of Israel about the plans of the Aramean army. The king of Aram was so mad because he thought one of his soldiers was sharing the army's secrets. But we know God knows everything and can reveal it to whomever He chooses. Next, God opened the eyes of Elisha's servant to see the angel armies surrounding the Aramean army. God wanted the servant and us to know that He is always with us and He is always fighting on our behalf. He often protects us from things we are not even aware of. I would love to have seen the servant's expression when he saw those chariots of fire surrounding his enemies. Finally, God blinded the Aramean army so they would follow Elisha right into the city of Samaria. When God opened their eyes again, the Aramean army was the one surrounded by their enemies. But Elisha told the king of Israel to send back the army to their own king. And then the Aramean army left Israel all alone. My favorite part of the story is when God opened the eyes of Elisha's servant so he could see God's protection. God is always with us. Jesus came to earth as the visible image of the invisible God. And God's protection from sin and death is given to everyone who trusts in Jesus. And now, guys, we will be reading from our Bibles. So if you have yours ready, please turn to Isaiah chapter 42, verse 8. It says, "I am the Lord, that is my name. My glory I give to no other, nor my praise to carved idols." And as we've seen in all these stories, God goes to great lengths to show us his power and remind us that he alone is God. He loves us so much, and he doesn't want us to waste our lives following after things that cannot satisfy us. Only God knows everything we need, and he meets our greatest need of salvation through his Son, Jesus. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to end in prayer if you want to bow your heads and join me. God, thank you so much that you love us and that you sent your Son to die on the cross for our sins so that we may have salvation. Thank you that you are always with us. And I ask that you help us to love you and worship you and put you first in our lives. Amen.